Hello, hello.
I'm Dana, and
I am Kevin.
we are here to talk about everybody's favorite topic, fragrance blending.
Is it everybody's favorite? It's
I-
my favorite.
I
don't
think
know.
it's most people's favorite thing to do with fragrance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are here to kind of really learn a little bit more about the science and the art of fragrance blending.
Yes, because it very much is a combination of the two. I mean, it is rooted in science, but it is very much an artsy endeavor, much like candle making in itself and soap making and other crafts. They're very often science and art combined.
And Kevin is an excellent resource to talk about this. He does work in our lab. We do have an on-site lab where we do a lot of product development, testing. So Kevin has worked with these fragrances much more than I have. So I'm very, very grateful that you're here to kind of let us know
Absolutely.
a little bit more about how to use them.
I am happy to be here.
So this is very much a basic 101 intro to fragrance blending. So all you pros out there, you might be able to pick up a few tips, but this is a great starting point if you are new to blending with fragrances.
Absolutely. If you are more experienced, feel free to stick around, though. We will get into some a little bit more depth in certain subjects, particularly some of the regulations around it, if for limitations, things like that. So it's not purely basic, but I am going to kick it off with some of the more basic concepts just to make sure it's on the same page.
Perfect. And of course, we will be giving some fragrances away so you can hone your fragrance blending skills. What that will be today, will be a full kit, our box of blending elements. And our blending elements are a great way to kind of intro to fragrance blending because they are single notes.
They are, and I don't know if you understand how awesome of a set this is, especially to win one. Absolutely fantastic. It's all of our blending elements. Comes with great documentation, a great way to kick off fragrance blending in a similar fashion to how we're going to today. In fact, if you already have some of our blending elements, you're welcome to blend along with us as we go. We're going to be pretty heavy on the elements today, mainly just because I love them and you can't stop me from talking about them. So buckle in, deal with it. Let's get started.
We've tried to stop him. We just can't.
No, Dave, in fact, you can just kind of go if you need to.
The rules for the giveaway are right here. You only need to enter once. Please use a valid email. That is how we will contact you. And the giveaway is only active during the live. So if you are rewatching this later at home, unfortunately the giveaway will not be active, but during, feel free to enter. You only need to enter one time. And then we will go ahead and get those out for you. The other bit of housekeeping here is please, please, please feel free to ask any and all questions about fragrance blending, fragrances, combinations, skills you need, anything at all. Feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm going to be collecting them. We will be answering them. And if you do see an answer from someone named Todd, that is our resident candle scientist. You can trust his word.
Yeah, so Todd is my direct boss. He's a chemist. He works here in our lab. Excellent dude. He's very much more the sciencey side. I'm a little bit more of the artsy side. It's an excellent combination. So if there is a question that I'm not able to answer, it's inevitable. You guys are going to stump me on something. I'll run it past him or past any of our other fragrance experts here at CandleScience. So to get started, I think we should cover some terminology, right? And the first thing you're going to hear over and over and over again today is note. So what exactly is a fragrance note? A note is essentially a singular concept, a singular object or concept encapsulated into a fragrance. I think it's important to recognize the difference between notes and ingredients. So ingredients are more scientific, right? They are classified, they're cataloged, they're assigned cast numbers, they are regulated. When you look at an ingredients list, you're going to see a bunch of ingredients, compounds that are specific, more scientific. Notes, however, are more representative of a concept or something that exists in nature, but that has been encapsulated into a fragrance oil, usually by way of multiple ingredients. So you may have a singular note, say like rose or lime or sandalwood, that in itself, from an olfactive standpoint, is an individual note, but it may have required several ingredients to make that note. So it's important to recognize the difference. And in nature, sometimes a single object kind of conveys a single note, but typically in perfumery, it does require multiple ingredients to make a single note. So in that sense, you won't see a note on an ingredients list. You'll see the ingredients that were used to create that note. And most fragrances are a variety of notes. And that's where it gets to be a little bit complicated when blending fragrances, because A finished fragrance is sort of like a finished piece of music, right? You have your individual notes, and all those notes come together to make the finished piece. And that's very much the same as it is with fragrance as well. So when you talk about notes, again, these are things like maple, sugar, milk, honey. There's individual components in various categories. Woodsy ones could be sandalwood, cedar. They're individual, sort of singular, unique components. And often they are categorized in different ways. One way that you can talk about notes is top, middle, and base notes. And there is a bit of science ingrained into how those get categorized. It is really based on volatility. Your top notes are typically things like light citruses and florals that have a high volatility, and that means they evaporate quickly, often even at room temperature. So when you are holding a candle and you're smelling its scent throw, its cold throw, its scent throw when it's not lit, you're going to get a lot more of those top notes because they are more readily available when smelling something that isn't hot yet. Your middle notes are often called the heart of your fragrance, so that's going to be more greens, some of the lighter woodsy notes, some of your spicy notes tend to fall in the middle, and those are the notes that hit your nose just after those top notes. So equally important, just kind of layered underneath those top. And in the bottom is the base. So your base notes are, from a physics standpoint, are heavier. They're heavier, they're less volatile, they don't evaporate quite as quickly. So often you need heat to get those base notes to really come out of a fragrance. So if you've ever noticed that a candle smells one way in its cold throw and then it's slightly different when you burn it, that's often because those base notes are really starting to come out once it burns. So this is not a hard rule. Sometimes it is relative to the blend as well. Well, base notes are generally heavier stuff like woody notes, amber notes. You'll see those in the base more often. Sometimes gourmands like vanilla are listed in the base because those are very, very heavy notes. But sometimes if you have a more floral or citrusy blend and there's not a lot of very heavy notes, you'll see some of the lighter notes listed in the base because that's just relative to the overall blend. So as we continue to move forward, and keep in mind those top, middle, base, it is good practice to kind of have a little bit of a variety in your notes as you build that complex fragrance. But keep in mind there are no hard rules here. And this is the more artsy side of it, right? Like you can do whatever you want. You can go have fun with it. You can mix stuff up. You can push the envelope and kind of break the mold a little bit and make something truly unique. Which takes us into why to blend, right? Like, why do we even want to do this? And I often skip over that because, frankly, I just think it's fun. Like, I don't need a reason to blend. I enjoy it, right? But if you're, if it's not really your thing and you're like, why would I do this? Obviously, there's an element of personal preference. One example I come up with all the time when I'm talking to customers is Cedarwood Blanc. I love our Cedarwood Blanc fragrance. It's one of my favorite fragrances. I do think it leans a little more gourmand than I would like. It has those heavy vanilla notes that I love in the blend, but I think they're just represented, they're a little overrepresented, in my personal opinion. Not everyone would agree, but that's just me. So that's that element of personal preference. I like to blend that one to make it exactly what I want it to be. But also from a business standpoint, I mean, a lot of people blend to just have unique fragrances for their line. Everybody wants to have their niche. They want to have their own unique product line. And blending fragrances really helps with that. It can help you to create a fragrance that is truly unique to your business. And I think there's a ton of value in that. But also, if you're a wholesale customer, if you do wholesale, if you custom candles specifically, being able to offer your customers custom blends, maybe something that is representative of their store, their region, being able to create custom blends is hugely valuable when you are a wholesale or private label maker. So lots of reasons to blend. Let's get into a little bit more of how you do it. So in addition to top, middle, and base notes, which is more representative of the weight, the volatility of the components, we can also categorize fragrances by type, essentially. In CandleScience, we call them fragrance families. And these families are often displayed now on this wheel that you see here. So in addition to the music note analogy, I use that a lot to help kind of understand fragrance notes and finished compositions. You can also kind of look at it through the lens of color theory. You probably see this if you were an art student like me, you have dealt with the color wheel. And there are some similar concepts there. It's not a direct correlation, but there are some similar concepts with the fragrance wheel and the color wheel, especially in that it gives you sort of a guide to blend, and where certain notes fall on this wheel can give you a primer as to how to blend those notes with other notes. Again, these aren't hard rules. They're more suggestions. So let's get into these fragrance families and how they apply to some of the fragrances that we carry here at CandleScience. So the first one, we're going to start with citrus. And you'll also see on the outside of this wheel that there is some loose seasonality as well. And even more so than the categories, I think the seasonality is pretty subjective. I mean, there are notes that are tied to specific times of year. I mean, you generally see pumpkin around the fall. You see more gourmands around the fall, but that's not a hard rule. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't use pumpkin in the spring. But generally speaking, we do see certain fragrances spike during certain times of the year. So if you're looking at citrus, you're kind of in that spring going into summer category. And citrus, very, very popular. Can be a great year-round fragrance, but does tend to spike in the spring. So citrus notes, pretty obvious on this one. They can be described as sparkling, fruity, tart, sweet, zesty. These are often notes of bergamot, tangerine, grapefruit, orange, lemon, lime. And, again, I think you could probably guess as to some of the fragrances that are heavy in those notes. Citrus Sunshine, Blood Orange, Paloma. Those are some great finished fragrance oils that have those notes in them. So if we go around the wheel, we get into one that's a little bit more specific, and that's marine ozonic. So marine and ozonic notes get their own category. They're very airy, very brisk, clean, often aquatic, like sea salt. When you say salty air, that's usually coming from an aquatic note. So you see these in fragrances like High Tide, Sea Minerals, Seldom Air, Ocean Breeze. Things like that are usually very heavy in marine ozonic notes. So going around the wheel from ozonic, we get into green, one of my favorite categories. I love green notes. These are bamboo, green leaves, cucumber, moss, grass. Often described as fresh, leafy, vegetal even, or kind of watery. Cucumber, I think it's one that really comes off very vegetal and watery. So green notes, very, very common, used often in smaller amounts than some other notes, but very, very common in some of our fragrance blends, and a very important category. From there, we go into fruity. Now, it's important to distinguish fruity from citrus. Your citrus is going to be typically very tart. It's your more lemons and limes. They have a distinct tartness to them, whereas the fruity category is more sweet, juicy, maybe kind of tangy. People often describe them as playful fragrances. They're very fresh. These are notes of apple, berry, cranberry, fig, melon, mango. Really, any fruit that is not clearly a citrus fruit typically ends up in this fruity category. And at that point, we're getting into the summer. Fruity is a year-round concept, but tends to spike in the hotter summer months. Now, going into that, a very different category would be your spicy notes. These are warm, they're intense, dry, often kind of sharp. These are notes like cardamom, peppercorn, ginger, chili pepper, nutmeg, coriander. They're your cinnamon group, right? So fragrances like ginger and spice, cinnamon stick, cinnamon chai, all heavy in the spicy notes. And again, typically a note outside of cinnamon chai, things like that are really heavy. Spicy is often incorporated in just a small amount with other fragrance families. Moving on from there, gourmand. Everyone but Dana's favorite category, gourmand. I can't say it's my favorite, but I am a sucker for gourmand fragrances, and you just simply cannot discount the importance of gourmand fragrances. Even if you're not a fan, you gotta carry them because people love them. Vanilla is a gourmand fragrance, or gourmand note tends to be one of the most popular year-round. So gourmands are your sweet, creamy, baked, sugary notes. They could be brown sugar, buttercream, caramel, coconut, vanilla, maple, chocolate, honey, perhaps. Almond macaron, butterscotch and bourbon, maple sugar, excellent examples of gourmand fragrances. And your classic, very vanilla, obviously very heavy gourmand type fragrance. Now next to gourmand on that wheel, you're going to see amber. Again, one that's a little bit more difficult to wrap your head around if you're new to this, but amber, think resin. They're very resinous, they're soft, they're kind of powdery, musky notes that are often described as sensual come from the amber category. So that's benzoin, it's musks, it's incense, frankincense, myrrh. Powder notes fall into the amber category. You often have these described as masculine as well. Even though they're kind of soft and powdery, they do have a distinct masculinity to them in a lot of people's eyes. So this is going to be fragrances such as cashmere musk, golden santal, Egyptian amber. Those all have very heavy amber presence. From there, you're going to get into the woody category, which overlaps a bit with amber. And as we get further into this, you'll see that the amber and woody categories, families do blend together very, very well. So your woody is going to be earthy, grounding, also masculine, can be smoky, often described as deep, and that's partly because woody notes tend to be very heavy and they tend to be base notes. So they give a certain depth to fragrance oils. It could be amorous, could be balsam, cedar, oak, oud, palo santo, sandalwood. Some of my favorites in this category being redwoods and moss and fog and fern. If you want more of a smoky touch, that would be like bonfire embers, all those very woody fragrances. Going from woody into the next one, you're going to see aromatic. A lot of people think of aromatic as herbal. I think aromatic is a better word for it. It's a little bit more all-encompassing, but generally herbal is a pretty good descriptor because these are clean, fresh, herbaceous fragrances, often referred to as energizing. They tend to be peppy and make peppermint in particular kind of like wakes you up in the morning, right? So these aromatic fragrances often blend well with florals, and they tend to give just a spark and like an uplifting nature to a fragrance. So notes like basil, camphor, chamomile, rosemary, the different mints, those fall into the aromatic category. And garden mint, white tea, sage, and cypress, some great examples of finished, excellent aromatic fragrances. From there, we're going to get to the last category, which is floral. Last but certainly not least, I personally am not a big floral guy, but they sell. Much like gourmands, if you don't carry any florals, you're probably losing some sales. People love floral fragrances. They are very popular, particularly in the spring, but honestly, they do well year-round. So you're looking at notes of cherry blossom, freesia, gardenia, jasmine, lily of the valley, pretty much any floral. Lavender, kind of a gray area. Lavender's a bit aromatic, but generally speaking, if it's a flower, it's in this category, and there are so many of them. And some of my favorites being Bohemian Rose, Cactus Flower and Jade, and Old Classic English Garden. English Garden is like an all-encompassing floral and green type fragrance. It's fantastic. So that is everything, and from there you get back into citrus. So you see it is a cyclical nature. This is a wheel. It's not, it's not set in stone. It's just a guide for when you're blending your fragrances. And much like the color wheel, a good way of determining what notes are going to play well together, other than just jumping in and doing it all yourself, because you're welcome to do that too. Again, it is somewhat subjective. You can blend whatever you want. But if you're trying to avoid the missteps and trying to give yourself a little bit of a guide before you jump straight in, you can use that fragrance wheel. And where these families fall on the wheel sort of helps you decide which other families they're going to play well with. And the simplest way to look at that, very similar to the color wheel, is families that are right next to each other on the wheel. If you are into color theory, you may have called these analogous colors. We refer to them as kindred families here at CandleScience. So these are going to be families that are right next to each other on the fragrance wheel. I was expecting a graphic for this one. But if you
use your imagination.
There we go. Woody, for example, we're going back to the woody and amber categories. These are really popular for blending. They overlap a little bit, similar to aromatic and floral, but there is some overlap. There are some notes that could kind of debatably be either woody or amber. We generally put them into one specific family, but some of them, there is some overlap. So amber and woody, great place to start. These are going to be some of my favorites personally. And we're going to start off fairly simple. So our first blend between these two kindred families is going to be cedar, sandalwood, and amber.
Two of my favorites with that cedar and sandalwood.
Cedar and sandalwood, excellent together. I absolutely love amber. And we kind of jumped over, we mentioned them in the beginning, but just to go back and redefine these blending elements that we carry here at CandleScience, they are essentially single notes, right? We went back in the beginning, we were talking about notes and them being sort of a singular concept. And usually your finished fragrances made by perfumers are complex and they're excellent and they are a finished symphony in a sense. Whereas you may want to start your piece with individual notes, and that's what the blending elements give you. There are, some fragrances are more complex than others, but this is our way of making it as simple as possible for you to take specific notes and blend them together to make your own finished fragrance. So you may be using just blending elements by themselves to build from the ground up. You may take an existing fragrance, like I did with Cedarwood Blanc, and add an element to it. So these are all the elements that we currently carry. Don't worry, there will be more. I'm even going to tease a new one today if you stick around. So these are what we currently carry. When you buy the fragrance elements kit, you will have this insert included as well. And it is an excellent guide for looking at that fragrance wheel, determining what category, what family each note falls into, and then using that wheel to start off your specific blends. So going back into Kindred, we have Kindred. So just a couple examples here. The baking for our spicy category, these blending elements, we have 3 in the spicy category. It's going to be baking spices, cardamom, and cinnamon. For gourmand, we have chocolate, coconut, praline, vanilla. All very gourmand. And again, these categories, these families will expand with time. We are very excited to be launching some more blending elements in the near future. So keep an eye out for those. What we do have today for this specific blend is cedar, sandalwood, and amber. Did you blot these for me already?
I did.
You. So when we are blending fragrances, most of you probably know this by now, but in case you don't, these blotter strips are an excellent way to get started. Smelling fragrances out of bottle can be a bit overwhelming, especially when you're trying to blend, because then you're juggling multiple bottles. It's a whole mess. So start off with blotter strips. Dana has already graciously blotted each of these for me, which simply means dumping it into the fragrance up to the line that is on the strip. And then you can hold all 3 in this case. There could be more, but in this case we have 3. Hold all 3. Make sure you waft it pretty far back and forth so it just fills the air in front of your face with that fragrance. And you'll start to get a combination of those 3 notes together. And I love this. I love the woody notes, but it's soft, powdery amber. I think it just blends so well with those. And it makes them a little bit lighter and just very, very good. Now, I don't know that I would consider it a finished blend. It certainly could be. This one is approved across the board. If you were to use these 3 fragrances together, they'd be approved for anything except for reed diffusers. We're going to talk, as I go, we'll talk about IFRA a little bit and the implications of blending. But one rule of thumb is, you want all of them to be approved for your specific category. And as you get into percentages, you want to stick with the percentage, the lowest percentage of the group. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But in this case, the sandalwood element, unfortunately, is not restricted by IFRA, but it did fail our solubility testing. So we test all of our fragrances in every application that we carry: soaps, candles, reed diffusers. Unfortunately, the sandalwood element doesn't like to play well with the diffuser base, which is a pretty rare thing. It's very rare that one doesn't pass solubility, but I'm afraid that one did. So you may run into some solubility issues if you were to try to use this in a diffuser base. However, every other application, it is approved. Excellent for candles. This is a great starter for a candle. Could be room sprays, could be soap as well. And again, I don't know that I would consider these 3 a finished blend, but it could be. I mean, it's an excellent blend. The cedar, sandalwood, and amber just play really, really well together. So give it a shot. If you already have our blending elements, try this one out. See what you think. See if you, as we go, if you have any ideas on what you would add to this. Just again, no hard rules here. This is a kindred combination, but you may throw in, say, something from across the wheel, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So please let us know what you think about blends like this. What would you add to it? What would you do differently? Help us out. So going into the next one, your kindred families, it doesn't always have to just be 2. In this case, we have 3 blending elements that are also kindred, but it's 3 side-by-side categories. So this is going to be, we've got a little cut off. There we are. So this is pine, aquatic, and bergamot. Marine notes play really well. Marine ozonic notes play really well with both green and citrus. So in this case, we did all 3. Again, fairly basic. You may find that you want to add a lot to this, but to start off with, I really, really like this blend. It's super fresh. I think the pine and bergamot play really well together.
I love this one.
I'm a sucker for aquatic. Both ozonic and aquatic are really nice. I tend to use aquatic more because it is diffuser approved. So this whole blend would be reed diffuser approved up to 25%. And typically your top notes do really well in reed diffusers because it is a flameless application. sometimes the heavier bass notes don't vaporize at the rate that these top notes do. So often, if you're looking for a really punchy reed diffuser, the top notes go really far, and all these are top and mid notes here. So they tend to be pretty volatile. They do really well in reed diffusers, and this blend in particular, super fresh, super nice. Like tell me you wouldn't have that reed diffuser in your home.
No, and it is that bergamot because I do like pine on its own. I like the aquatic on its own.
But
That
the
hint of
bergamot brings it together, right?
It's so good.
Bergamot is also one of my favorite citruses. It's pretty unique. It's not quite lime. It's got it kind of sits on its own, and it's really good. It's an excellent blender, and I almost used it in multiple blends today. I tried to differentiate and not focus on bergamot the whole time just because I like it. So, but this one, excellent blend, really good in a reed diffuser. Give this one a try. Again, let me know what you would think. Maybe you would swap out aquatic for ozonic. Maybe you would do a different citrus. Maybe you'd add another citrus. I mean, we're doing 2, 3, maybe 4 here today. But there is no limit. You know, if you want to use 5, 6 oils, you can do that. They don't all even have to be blending elements. You can use a blending element to adjust an existing fragrance. No hard rules here.
And I think too the blending elements are used a little bit more like as perfumery would be, like in those accords, those notes.
Yes.
So you can build a fragrance from, you know, the ground up. But sometimes adding just a little bit of something that you're missing to an existing fragrance oil or blend, I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's a little simpler that way. If you're not as into blending, if you're not as excited about it and geeked out as I am on this kind of thing, then maybe you just want to do it for your business. Maybe you just want to take a fragrance that you really like and tweak it a little bit just to make it your own, you know, just to make it truly unique to your business. And this is an easy way to do that. You know, you can look at the existing fragrance or the existing notes within a fragrance, take a blending element, tweak it a little bit, and really make it your own without getting too far out in the weeds. Whereas building it from the ground up just with blending elements, a little bit more work, a little bit more involved. In my personal opinion, totally worth it. It's a ton of fun. I want to put this one down. I like it so much.
I love that. I might make that later.
Yeah. The only hard rule today is that you can't tell me that's bad because that is just
so good.
Excellent. Moving on. So those are kindred families, right? Those are the fragrance families that are next to each other on the fragrance wheel. Pretty simple rule of thumb, right? But much like color theory, when you are pairing colors together, sometimes the complementary categories go well together. And these are notes that are distinctly different from one another, but for whatever reason play really well. And they give it really a greater complexity than blending with just the kindred families. So our first example on this one is cedar, moss, and smoke. I thought I was going to have to block these myself, so thank you, Dana. This is making it so much easier for me.
I am here to help.
So this one is more woody than green. So you have your cedar, you have your smoke. When you're doing it on the blotter strips like this, you sort of inevitably end up with 1 to 1 to 1. You have equal ratio of each one. So this, to me, by themselves, these three, little smoky. It's very, very earthy, very good. It's woody, it's earthy, and the moss gives it a distinct green note. And I like that a lot. But it is tricky with the blotter strips to adjust your percentages, right? Like, I personally would just like a little bit of smoke.
I have a heavy hand when it comes to
and you
you
can sometimes blot very lightly and to kind of emulate that smaller percentage within the blend. It's not foolproof. It's kind of tough. It's easy to oversaturate. So if you are looking for a more specific blend and you're getting into more specific ratios, one, might have a tool to demonstrate for you in a little bit that'll help you with that. But also it might be easier to blend the oils by weight and then smell them once they're mixed. The blotter strips are just a great primer, a great initial way of getting an idea of the fragrance, but not always the most scientific. And in this case, personally, very good. I would burn this in my house. I would prefer to have a little less smoke, though.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, what do you think?
No, 100%. You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
No, that's very smoky.
It's very smoky.
I do like it, though.
And that's an important thing to keep in mind with some of these blending elements. Like, they're all excellent. They all have defined approval percentages. But your personal opinion very much plays into it as well. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to smoke in particular, tend to go a little bit lighter on it because it just cuts through. And when you use it in equal percentages with others, it tends to dominate the blend. So you got to keep that in mind too. And that gets into a realm of kind of subjectivity. But it is something to keep in mind. You may not always want to go even percentages.
A hint of smoke is usually the best.
A hint of smoke is generally the way to go.
For sure.
But not always. So our next one gets to be a little bit more complicated. We're going to go 4 on this one. Again, it is a complementary blend. This is going to be citrus and gourmand, which I think is a really good beginner way to blend. It's a really popular combination. Like, like your orange and vanilla, your lemon vanillas. Orange chocolate tend to do well. Your gourmands and citruses just naturally play really well together. I mean, you see that in flavors as well. You often see combinations of gourmand and citrus in flavors too. So it makes sense to most of us. I think that this is a popular category, but it's one that it's kind of hard to go wrong. If you're blending gourmands with citruses, it's probably going to be pretty good. I mean, you're going to want to tweak it, make it your own, but these 2 categories for a beginner are a great place to start. Today, we have one that, honestly, this one I think would be 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. We have 4 here. I think equal percentages on this one probably makes sense.
I tried my best.
It looks pretty good. Those are pretty even, Dana. Well done.
I did measure with my heart this time, for sure.
I appreciate your efforts. You may have noticed one of those is not on the list that we talked about earlier. That's because it's new. We're just about to launch it. It's honey, and it's freaking awesome.
It's good. It's so good.
I know you guys are probably like, he says that about everything, and I generally do. But look, we even set up graphics for you. We're so pumped about it. Is the best honey fragrance I've ever smelled. It's not just sweet. It is it's very sweet. It's very gourmand, but it has that natural honey vibe. It is so good.
Y'all are about to be sick of me.
Dana's gonna never stop talking about it. I'm not gonna stop talking about this.
We compared it a 1-to-1. Erin's dad keeps bees and brought us actual natural honey.
Confirmed by a local beekeeper.
Seal of approval. This smells so true to life, and I am obsessed with it. And it's like a little bit dirty.
Yeah.
Like it had, like you can tell, like bees.
Which, like, I'm almost hesitant to say that because I don't want that to like turn people off. But it's it's a touch of earthiness, just like raw honey would have. You know, it's predominantly sweet but it's got like an element of earthiness to it. It's just killer, man. I love it so much. So if you don't like the honey, keep it to
First
yourself.
of all,
I don't want to hear about it because it's so good. And it goes great in this particular blend. Being a gourmand, honey in particular plays great with citruses. And I tried this one out before we started today, so I already know that I like it. And I think, hang on. All right, I won't. Here, I'll let you do it before I give my initial reaction to it.
Oh my god. This is, I rarely blend more than 2 fragrances. 3 is usually my max. To like a 4 blend fragrance this much is rare for me personally.
Yeah.
But oh my god, this is so good.
Isn't that great? I really like it, and you could vary it up a bit. If I were getting picky, I might lower the grapefruit slightly. Grapefruit is one that is so unique and distinctive, it kind of cuts through. But man, these together, excellent. And it's the vanilla. The vanilla and the honey together just help to bring down and balance out citrus. Citrus, obviously, very heavy top note. They're very volatile. They tend to hit you in the face right away when you smell a fragrance that has a lot of citrus. But the vanilla and the honey and gourmands in general give it a depth and complexity that just really works. So if you're looking for a couple categories to start with, if you're brand new to this, jump into citrus and gourmand. It's kind of hard to go wrong. You can always refine it to make it, your personal favorite, but that is a very good starting point.
Top notch. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Very good at your job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's job security. So moving on,
I haven't moved on.
And if anybody out there has specific blends that they already have in mind that you are pumped about, if you don't mind sharing, some people want to gatekeep their formulas, I understand that as well. But if you got a blending, particularly with the blending elements that you are excited about, throw it in the chat. Let us know. I love to hear what people are blending. I love to test them. I have all these at my disposal all the time. So testing out other people's blends is a lot of fun for me. And I'll tell you if I like it or not, and I'll be honest. I do like most things, but You go putting too much petrichor in something, I'm gonna tell you about it. But
Hang
so
on.
please let us know what you think. Send us your blends. Please stay in touch. I love hearing these kinds of things. So if you're not blending, or if you're not excited to blend with just the blending elements from the ground up, if you don't want to go through all that, totally understandable. Another great way to use these blending elements is to adjust an existing fragrance. And you can still use the wheel for that to kind of give you a guide on what is going to work well. So one of my favorite, used to be my favorite, we test it so often that I'm starting to get a little tired of it, to be honest, but white tea. Hugely popular, very, very good fragrance. Very heavy citrus in there, mandarin lemon. The middle has some bergamot and ginger, and then with a base of jasmine and white tea. And this is a predominantly citrus aromatic blend because it's primarily that mandarin lemon and white tea, and white tea has that herbal aromatic feel to it. Has a light floral component with the jasmine, and I've spoken with a lot of customers that like white tea a lot, but they think it's not quite floral enough. They really enjoy floral fragrances. They don't necessarily want to blend their own, but they love a base of white tea, and they want to know what they can do to kind of broaden that out and make it a little bit more unique and specific to what they're looking for. So if you're looking for more floral, I think a great thing to blend with white tea would be our muguet element. That's a fancy French word for lily of the valley. Lily of the valley would, in my opinion, play really well with white tea. I say would as if I don't know. I know that it does because I already did this. And Dana has already blotted them for me. They're sitting right in front of me. But if we can just real quick, Casper, if we can go back to that first image of white tea without the muguet. And I want to focus on the wheel for just a moment. You see that floral component. It's in there at, I don't know, maybe like 10, 15% of the overall blend. Excuse me. So it's in there. It's noticeable, but it's not a major component, especially compared to the citrus and aromatic. But if you add in 25% muguet, I don't think I would go 1-to-1 on this. I wouldn't go 50-50. You could if you wanted. But as you'll see in the next slide, even just by adding 25% muguet, it transforms the wheel as such. So now the floral is technically a little bit heavier than the citrus and aromatic components. They're pretty close, but it does give it a little edge over those two. So it becomes a lightly floral fragrance into a almost predominantly floral fragrance, which is why I wouldn't necessarily go 1-to-1 on this, because if you went 1-to-1, 50-50 blend, your floral would really dominate. So I like this at a 75-25 blend. See what you think, Dana.
Oh, I wish I knew that before I blotted them.
It's okay. It's okay. It's an excellent segue because I personally think it's better at 25%. That said, that can be a little more complicated, right? When you add something in at smaller percentages, you start to get into more complicated math. And that can be overwhelming for some people, and that's understandable. You're dealing with percentages of percentages now, and it gets to be a bit much. Fortunately for you guys, we did recently implement a new tool.
Yes.
Am I going too quickly for you, Dana? Are you ready?
Oh no, I've got this.
Excellent.
So we know that 1, math is hard. 2, math is not that much fun unless you're Todd or Kevin.
It's not even much fun for me, to be honest.
So what we wanted to provide is some kind of tool or resource to help you figure out fragrance blending ratios. A lot of times we speak in terms of percentages or ratios in terms of fragrance blending. So we did start, emphasis on the start, implementing a tool to help with that. I just want to let everyone here know this is the first time anyone is seeing this. We haven't been using it to its full potential yet. So if you do want to try this tool out, please let us know what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you want it to do. And we'd be very happy to pass on that information to our development team. But I'm going to show you our new, in beta, fragrance blending calculator.
Yeah, keep in mind this isn't beta, this is new.
Yeah.
So we, if you find any hiccups with it, please let us know. We want to iron this thing out. But so far, we're very, very proud of how this is going so far. And the white tea and muguet, I think, is an excellent primer for this, because I don't want to do that 150. So when I say we talk about ratios and percentages, and I kind of go back and forth. If I'm talking 1-to-1, I mean 50-50, right? Equal parts. Kind of like mixing a drink. You may talk about it in terms of parts as opposed to percentages. So in this case, I said a 75% white tea, 25% muguet. That would be 3-to-1 technically, if you're talking about parts. So in this, so our new tool here, our fragrance and blending calculator, will help you to figure out the what those percentages mean and what they're going to amount to in terms of your finished product.
And it should eventually give you how much fragrance you will need for your particular project.
Exactly.
So this is on the site right now. The link is also in the description of this video. So if you want to play along with us, you absolutely can. Again, this is just in the testing phase, so feel free to let us know what you like about it or don't. But let's take that white tea and muguet example here. So once you get to the fragrance and blending calculator, you are going to go down here and choose your fragrance. Very easy enough. It does list everything out. You can also search. So we're going to go white tea and add that. So that is your first fragrance right there on the left. For your second fragrance for your blend, choose your fragrance. We're going to go muguet. Click. Now you have right beside each other the two fragrances that you would like to blend and also all of their recommended usage. That is going to be important later. Down here, you can absolutely do just that 50-50 like Kevin was saying, that 1-to-1 if you want them both in equal parts. If you do not, if you want a little bit less muguet, as we do, you can adjust this on a sliding scale, which I think is very cool. So you wanted 75% white tea.
Correct. 75% white tea, 25% muguet.
As you move it, you will see the percentages adjust. I'm going to adjust the white tea up to 75%, 25% muguet. It's always going to equal 100. Down here, it gives you information about your specific blend. So this should adjust based on IFRA, based on the recommended usage rates. So this is going to make sure that the product you're making with this blend is going to be IFRA compliant and work in the products that you are going to want to use it in. And speaking of the products you want to use it in, you get to choose what that is. Right now I have it set to candle. So you can also choose soap. You will see that change based on what you are making. Room spray, you can use up to 10% this blend. For perfume, you could use 17.2%. And for candles, you can use up to usually a 10% fragrance load is the highest that we'd recommend for candles.
Yeah, depending on your wax, if you're doing melts, you maybe have to go higher. But that
And
is we generally say,
even have that option.
If you're doing melts, using using our cocoa soul, you can go up 25%, which I highly recommend. Not just because I had so much involvement in making it,
It's your
because
baby.
it is kind of a baby, but it's also an excellent wax and holds so much fragrance oil. And so I personally love wax melts. I do a lot of wax melts personally. So anyway, moving on to the IFRA part of this. And I think this guide can help to kind of segue into the importance of understanding IFRA as well. So IFRA sets limitations for your different applications, right, based on independent testing. And when you blend fragrance oils, you are blending, you are creating a new finished product that doesn't have its own IFRA certificate. If you're a very large company and you create a blend that, actually, if you pull that back up for me, I can use a quick example on it. If you're a big company creating finished blends, you can outsource to third parties that can give you new IFRA sheets and based on your finished blend. But a good rule of thumb for most of us is to just stick with the lowest percentage amongst those oils. So for reed diffusers is a great example here, Dana. If you drop that down to reed diffusers for us, you're going to see, or diffuser base, you're going to see that the max stopped at 13%. If you were doing just white tea, it's approved up to 25%. But the reason that this tool is dropping you down to 13 is that muguet is only approved up to 13%. And some of you more math savvy people might be thinking, hey, why can't we then just crunch the numbers and average those two out? But I'm afraid it's not that simple. Because fragrance oils can have overlapping components, it's not as simple as just doing the math on the blend and producing a new percentage. You really, if you're not having it independently tested, once you finish your oil, the best way to go about this and to make sure that you're IFRA compliant is to always use the smallest percentage, the most restricted oil as your reference point. So in this case, if you want to make this specific blend with white tea and muguet for a diffuser, you'd be limited to 13%. And frankly, that's probably more than enough. because those two fragrances, again, very top note heavy, very floral, tend to do great in reed diffuser. So you probably don't need more than 13%. But you always need to keep that IFRA in mind. Keep your regulatory in mind. If you ever have questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. We try to be as transparent on these things as possible and provide the documentation that you need. But if you ever have a question, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help with that part of it. Because I know regulatory in particular can be kind of daunting.
Absolutely.
Blending fragrances, ton of fun. Regulatory doesn't really excite most people.
But we try to take a lot of that headache out for you. So this is going to calculate everything correctly. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
And it looks great. I think this is a really fun tool. I think it's very helpful. And it will also then calculate how much fragrance you need for your project, and you could just add it to your cart from there. So we do like to take a lot of the guesswork out for you. And that will just help you calculate things moving forward, hopefully. But definitely, please play around with it. We are very open to any feedback you might have, and we're very willing to make some changes to better help you.
We are up to 4. We launched with 4 fragrances that you can choose in the
2
guide.
right now.
It's 2 right now.
Yep.
We will expand that out. It's not unusual to do 5, 6, even more fragrance oils together. If you're using blending elements, I would never recommend doing 4 or 5 finished fragrances together. That's going to be a nightmare. But if you're using blended elements, you absolutely could use more. So as we progress and get this thing in front of more people, we'll likely be allowing the possibility of adding more fragrances to this as well. But just in beta, as an example, it's kind of gives you a primer of how this tool works, and I'm very, very excited about it. I don't do anything on the programming side of things, so I was happy to see the magic that they did on that one.
Yes, thank you. And there is a little feedback form on the calculator, so feel free to fill that out. You can also send us a DM. We're happy to pass on any information you would like.
So we have covered everything I wanted to cover, everything I needed to cover. Let me say that. There's so much more that I would like to talk about, but we're going to get a little short on time quickly, and I imagine we have a few other things that we need to get through.
Yes, we do have some great questions. Y'all are asking some amazing questions that we are going to get to. And of course, we do need to give some fragrances away.
Absolutely. The people have been patiently waiting.
We're going to go ahead and set a little timer. So anyone who has not yet entered the giveaway, the link is in the bio, the link is in the description. And go ahead and enter as you can. Make sure you have a valid email, and the giveaway is only active during the live. So go on, I will get ready. And just to remind everyone what that is, we have a beautiful box of blending elements, which does come with that chart, some blotter strips, and our entire collection of the blending elements, which we will be getting some more eventually. Honey is one of them, so keep an eye out.
The backside of the insert does talk a little bit about the fragrance wheel and the blending elements. A lot of the information we covered today, so just a nice little reference piece that is included. Even comes in a beautiful custom box. Excellent pack. I really can't overstate how important a kit like this is if you're getting into blended. This is an excellent freebie. So if you want to blend, get yourself a blending elements kit. And let's give one away right now.
Yeah, we have the winner, I believe, Leslie A. I'll never not do jazz hands. It's
sorry.
okay. You don't have to. It's fine.
No, I'm
We all have our
getting
things.
forgetful in my old age. I'm sorry.
So congratulations, Leslie. Go ahead and give us whichever email you would prefer, and we will go ahead and get these out to you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Blend away. Let us know what you come up with, please. And look forward to more blending elements in the future as well.
Absolutely.
So with our last few minutes here, you think we should look at some of these questions? I can't read them from where I'm standing. You guys got to blow them up for me.
I know.
But
I'm going to go ahead and pop them up right up there so you can see. We have a lot. We have a lot. This, I think, was just a fun comment because anything marine and ozonic, I think, is such a good starting point.
I agree.
Especially for vibes. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah. Marine, aquatic, ozonic are vibes. I blend with them often, honestly. And again, we recommend starting with those kindred and complementary categories, but that's not always set in stone. You can have any variety in there that your heart desires. And I think the marine ozonic in particular tend to be a family that is an interesting addition to a lot of different other ones. Like it just gives it a fresh kind of crisp top note that plays well with a lot of different families.
Speaking of different families, might we have anything in the works along these lines?
We just might. I can't say more than that, but I agree with you. I will say that I want to expand all categories, including the spicy, and
spicy.
In more specificity. I think that baking spices is a little bit more general.
Yeah.
We have a blending element, so I would love to see some more spices.
Keep an eye
Can't
out.
say more than that, but you will find out soon.
And this is really, I think, the crux of why we wanted to start here.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of blending content around here. It is a lot of fun. It is, I think, very worth doing. Sometimes we forget to take a step back and really get into the bare bones of why things smell good together and why some do not.
Yeah.
And again, it's very objective, but I do think subjective. But there are some combinations that I think most people with a nose would just agree that it's relatively bad.
Yeah, agreed.
So we
Yeah.
do want to give you the best tools to start with and those building blocks so you can make better informed decisions, not waste materials, not waste your time, which is so valuable when you're creating and making and selling.
Absolutely.
So
Couldn't
I
agree
hope
more.
this was helpful. We do have a lot of these resources on the website. We're going to work on getting some more tools and resources out on social, newsletter, things like that. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to catch those.
And again, we talked about it earlier, but this is sort of a basic primer. You know, we touched on some slightly more technical aspects of blending, but this was pretty basic. So please let us know where you would like this to go from here. You know, if you have more specific questions, you want to see more detailed explanations of anything around fragrance or fragrance blending, let us know, please. You know, your input often guides our decisions on what we promote and what we talk about in these lives. So please reach out, let us know. I would love to delve into this more if marketing will have me back again.
You're always welcome.
Well, thank you, Dana. Thank you. You're always welcome in the lab too, as you know.
I don't know if that's true.
You can be a little disruptive sometimes, but you're always welcome. But please let us know which direction you'd like us to go with this in the future.
To 102.
Because, yeah, I'd love to do a 102. So please let us know.
This is actually a great question because I do feel things like smoke, amber, some of those a little bit like amorphous scents are hard to really put in a box.
I agree. And there is, again, an element of subjectivity there in that the families are a great guiding system, but there is some overlap. And smoky, you know, if you think about smoke, it's usually a wood smoke, generally. So, yes, they typically fall into the woody category. It is a more specific note within the woody category. But, yes, because smoke is generally in most of our minds is inherently tied to wood, it's usually a wood smoke that we're dealing with. They do fall into that woody category.
We touched on this a little bit, but I do think it's good to reiterate, can you use individual blending elements to recreate a fragrance that cannot be used in re-diffusers? That is a great
That's an excellent question. Yeah, very, very good question. And it's possible. And I'll be honest, the perfumers creating something like Gardenia tuberose have a huge selection of components to work with. The blending elements is going to be more limited. So would you be able to make a one-to-one of Guardian tuberose? No, probably not. Especially with just the blending elements. I mean, we don't have every element in there that you would need to create that specific fragrance, but you could probably get pretty close. And you could also start with an existing finished fragrance and add to it to try to get it closer to that Gardenia tuberose. So the short answer is yes, you absolutely can, but you would probably need a slightly wider inventory of notes to work with to create something that was that complex.
For sure. Another great question, speaking of finished fragrances and blending elements.
Yeah.
Because I do like both of these separately. And I
I
do
do
think
as
that they
well.
both have merit to be used even as an individual fragrance.
Absolutely.
But there are some differences, and the main ones, like the top level ones, is that the sandalwood element is more of just that single note. That is all that it is.
Yes.
The sandalwood fragrance oil does have more of a complexity in terms of different oils, different notes being used.
Absolutely, yes.
I could work in the lab.
Sometimes I think you do. It's everything that she just said. The blending elements, in essence, are trying to emulate that single note, like we said before. The sandalwood fragrance oil, even though we named it sandalwood, It is predominantly sandalwood. So it just got the simple title of sandalwood. If we were going to be more specific about it, we might have called it like sandalwood and musk, or it does have some musk in the base. It has some amyris, even has a little bit of coriander to it. So while it is the finished product really leans woody, and it really, like, when people smell it, they probably get hit by the sandalwood more than anything else. There are some other notes in there to give it some complexity. Whereas your sandalwood element is, if you look at the top middle base notes, it's just sandalwood, sandalwood, sandalwood. This was as close as we could get to a true, just genuine, simple sandalwood note. And you'll see that a bit with others as well. We have a vanilla element. We have a very vanilla fragrance oil. Very vanilla, not the most complex of fragrance oils, but it still has more going on with it than just the vanilla element by itself.
For sure, for sure. This was another great question because I love High Tide. I think it is my favorite sea-based fragrance that we have right now. But what do we mean essentially when we say aquatic? Because I do think that that is one of the blending elements that is very, very difficult to conceptualize if you have not smelled it.
It is, yeah. So I think the simplest way for me to describe it would be salty. Both ozonic and aquatic are very much airy fragrances, where ozonic is more fresh air. It's more ozonic, as the name implies. Like it's just very refreshing, very airy. Whereas aquatic, also very refreshing, very airy, but it has a distinct saltiness to it. So you can almost compare them compare it to, fresh air compared to salty air, sea mist, things like that. It gives much more of a beach vibe, much more of a marine vibe than the ozonic by itself. But both of them very crisp, very airy, very fresh, but there is that inherent saltiness to the aquatic.
And I really like that. This is an amazing business tip. I hope more people are doing this.
Yeah.
Because it's foolproof.
That's an excellent idea.
Limited edition is a great way to gauge new blends and how your target audience enjoys them. Popular they stay, not popular they go.
Yeah.
Very sound business decision. I love this. Also, it does create some scarcity. You can bring something back. You can keep it seasonal. You have so many options when you test this way.
Yeah, and people get super excited for limited editions too. You test it as a limited, you see how well it does, and then people, if they're begging you to bring it back, you bring it back. Limited editions are excellent. I think this is very, very good business advice. So thank you, Sarah, from me and the rest of us. That's very, very good advice.
Love that. This is a good question as well, because when we discuss top, middle, and base notes, particularly in candles, I feel it's a little bit different because when you burn them, there is a certain volatility to those different notes.
Yeah. By the time a candle gets heated up and fully melted, all of them are vaporized. Some may be coming out a little bit faster than others, but once you get to the heat of a candle, they're all releasing. Whereas in like a reed diffuser, there is an element of the top notes coming out first and more readily.
And that base is what you're kind of left with. So when we refer to the middle notes as the heart, does adding more heart essentially add that substance or that kind of feeling to it?
Adding more middle notes would increase strength, ever make it a top note. So in a sense, it could. Again, the top middle base is a little bit subjective. You do have your notes that are mostly described in one way. Your vanillas, your woods generally are described as base notes. But there is a fluidity to it, yes. So if you had a fragrance that is, a component that is generally considered a middle note, but it's in a very top note heavy, it almost would go the other way, I would think. Like if it's a middle note and you're adding it to a very top note heavy blend, it almost makes it a little bit more of a base. And that it is more of a middle note in the overall scheme of things, but within this blend, it's kind of, because it's more of a heavier middle note, is acting as an anchor. So in a sense, it's making that middle note a little bit more of a base note.
Yeah, I get that.
No, there's lemon as well. Lemon is great. I'm actually glad you asked, because lemon is on there. It's very, very good. It is a bit more limited by IFRA. So I used it in the blend with the vanilla, honey, and pink grapefruit because the vanilla already is not diffuser compatible. So, adding the lemon didn't break it. But lemon, unfortunately, it is excellent. But I focus a lot on reed diffusers. I think flameless is a really important category to focus on. Even if you make candles, I think adding flameless to your line is really important. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing these things. Sometimes IFRA will be limited. So lemon, great for your candles, but unfortunately it's not diffuser approved. So I didn't use it quite as much in this, but it is there, and there very well might be more in the future.
Yeah, I'm hoping. This I think was a really good example of how to manipulate a fragrance oil
Yeah.
using just like an addition of something else. I don't know off the top of my head here, and this might be something that we can get back to you on.
I'm gonna look it up real quick because I don't know. I know the fragrance.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of each individual note that's in it.
Because
want
I
to
really
make
like
it-
this one. I really like Obsidian too, but it is one of those kind of more like fantasy
Yeah.
based fragrances. It's hard to pinpoint exactly,
thank
you
you,
know, like
Casper.
what we have. So let me just blot that
Man
for
behind
you.
the camera always got us.
Oop. That's like 120%.
Yeah. I get why this one would be in question because, and often you see these more fantasy names when it's kind of harder to define, right? And this one is harder to define. But I think your sweetness here, it's more of an ambery kind of resinous sweetness to me. It is sweet, but it has a distinct powderiness to it too. I think honestly maybe play around with amber element, possibly. If you specifically said you want to make it more clean, so in that case maybe play around with ozonic or aquatic. Probably in this case ozonic. Ozonic would add a distinct crisp and freshness to it that I don't think would clash with any of this. So that would be a possibility.
Outside of the elements themselves, we do also recommend whipped lavender cream, which would, I think, push it in a more body care direction,
Yeah,
perhaps?
and a more gourmand sweetness. Like this one, it
Yeah.
has an inherent sweetness to it, but I wouldn't call it really gourmandy sweetness. It's more of like a earthy kind of like
Yeah.
sweetness.
The other was sea and stone, which could be interesting.
That makes sense, actually. So sea and stone, if you weren't going to do a blended element, sea and stone, but again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying with the ozonic. I think ozonic would blend well with it in a similar fashion to sea and stone. That too, very aquatic, very ozonic, very airy and fresh. So that I imagine would play really nicely with this. Do we have it in front of us?
No, these
Casper.
these
Obsidian,
caca. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would kind of work for that particular, especially if you're making whipped soap, and I would have to check the IFRA again.
yeah,
Always double check the IFRA.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're the best.
And I really like sea and stone.
It's a great fragrance on its own. So honestly, I think these both are really good. But
Yeah.
do we have the ozonic out? Or are they aquatic? We blotted it earlier.
We do. Yep, I gotcha.
Yeah, those two play really nicely together. And if making it more clean and fresh is what you're looking for, then I think this is a viable blend, absolutely. It does make it pretty complex. There's a lot going on there that is a little bit hard to pinpoint everything.
That's the aquatic.
So this is where I like to bring in the blending elements because I think it alters it without changing the complexity too much. Yeah, see, that I love. In fact,
Yeah.
I
Ooh.
think aquatic probably works better than ozonic in this case, at least for my preference. I think that little bit of saltiness complements it well. So yeah,
I agree.
if you're looking to blend obsidian, try out aquatic, ozonic,
Yeah.
or one of those more airy finished blends like sea and stone. But this is delightful.
I like that. And it plays well with the sweetness, so it doesn't tone it down too much. It alters it, in my opinion.
Exactly, it shifts it a little,
Yeah.
and that's where combining two finished fragrance oils can be a lot. It can drastically change them and turn them into a whole new monster. Whereas this, it's the same oil essentially, but it just is changing it just enough to give you a little bit of a punch of something else.
And
just to confirm, because I said a lot of words, this was obsidian and aquatic.
Yes.
And this is good.
And I do think Obsidian would work for book club. So for some behind the scenes information about Obsidian, I believe, and you can kick me under the table if I'm wrong, that it was a little bit like pirate themed in terms of inspiration.
I could see that. Yeah.
So
I don't honestly don't remember what its original concept
it's a
name
little
was.
swashbuckling. It's a little fantasy. It's a little. I do think that this would work.
It has rum and leather in the blend, so
That's piratey to me.
yeah. So that tracks.
Yes. So I definitely think that would work for sure. This question I just saw, and I saw a few questions about cocktail-inspired lines, which
Okay.
I'm very excited about because we have only brought in better and better boozy fragrances.
Yeah. And it's a growing sector. A lot of people are
Yeah.
asking for it. There's a lot going on with this question. The main question is whether or not you should make them wickless. And depending on what you're making, I would say yes. If you are incorporating dehydrated fruit, then absolutely, I would not put a wick in that, just for safety's sake. Candles are already a dangerous product. They have some inherent risk to them, so I just always encourage people to avoid anything else that could potentially add to that risk. And any dry added ingredient like that, really anything other than a candle-approved ingredient, even if it's tested, even if it seems relatively safe, it is just inherently adding a little bit more risk to your product. So if you're adding something like dehydrated fruit, then yeah, I would probably do a wickless for that. The other element would be, if we're talking cocktail lines in cocktail glasses, you also may want to be cautious of the integrity of the glass. If you're talking a rocks glass, no issues there. A lot of our containers are actually rocks glasses as well. But if you're talking like a stemware, like if you're trying to make something in a martini glass, absolutely be cautious of burning that. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a thin glass, likely not tested and approved for candles. So absolutely get information on it. But also the shape of a martini glass is problematic when wicking. If you have something that narrows down that much, if it tapers that much from top to bottom, it is a nightmare to wick. So yeah, that may be something that falls more into a wickless candle line.
And I do think that it could be beautiful. I mean, I know that there are makers out there that make these kinds of candles for sure. You just really want to be kind of cognizant of what you're using. We do have something like this that would be more of like a rocks glass, like you're mentioning.
So this is our new crosshatch. This is again, this is a great example of one that essentially is a rocks glass. You could buy it and use it for drinkware if you wanted to, but it's tested and approved for candles as well. Whereas a lot of stemware, wine glasses, martini glasses, things like that are not tested and approved for candles.
And then I think we have time for a couple more questions. I also want a carrot. I don't know what I would do with it. I agree. Yeah, I love that.
We have some stuff coming down the line that I think you'll be excited about. I can't confirm either of those two things. Well, I can confirm one's not carrot, but
for now,
much to my disappointment, one is not carrot. But keep asking for it, man. Let us know. I mean, again, we make a lot of these decisions based on feedback, so just email us, let us know. Thank you for mentioning it today. I will pass it on, and I would love to see carrot, honestly.
Well, what about this one? I know we've talked about it before.
Nope, don't even put it up. It's already a no.
No.
I'm not doing it. You can't make me.
Are you sure? Because there seems to be some interest. Are we sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well,
I tried.
Y'all can't make me, but my bosses can. So we'll see what happens on that one. To be perfectly honest, I think bacon is one of those things that a lot of people think they want and they don't really. I think it's more of a novelty candle. Oh, come on, man.
Give the people what they want, Kevin. And they want bacon.
Well, fine. Somebody else can test it, I'll make 2 points there. One, I've never smelled a bacon fragrance that actually smelled like bacon. And two, I do think it's more of a novelty thing. I like to focus on blends that have a more wide appeal to them. And I feel like the people that want a bacon candle kind of want to buy it once and likely aren't going to keep buying it again and again. Yeah. Prove me wrong, though. Prove me wrong, please.
Well,
I'm not feeling it. I don't think it'll be a strong seller.
The three, I think, oddest but most requested scents of that ilk, to my recent memory, is bacon, gunpowder, and horse sweat.
And I would make the same point to
all together.
So all three of those is that it falls into the novelty category a little more. Like, I'm not saying some people won't buy it. They may give it as a gift. It's a funny thing, but I think there is a pretty small sector of the population that actually wants to burn a gunpowder candle. But again, this is me being subjective. That would make it better. It would make it better. See,
They
already.
have a point.
But already you're kind of showing my point of like, you had to add the maple just to make it decent, you know? Like, it's not, I don't know. Sorry. This
Just
is me.
saying.
I'm being opinionated. I'm sorry. It's just not, it's not for me.
I'm with Chelsea.
If you want novelty scents, people want novelty scents. And you know what? Prove me wrong. I'll have to
Yeah.
acknowledge it next time I'm up here. You know, maybe it worked, maybe it won't. But the fact is we are limited in the amount of elements that we can have. So we do try to, see, I like that way better. Pickle,
I'm into it.
that again. I mean, to be fair, now I'm just being purely subjective because to be fair, that's kind of a novelty thing too. I just happen to like it more.
But dill. If we think about dill as
Yeah.
a blending element,
Just dill and cucumber.
there is a place for it.
Yeah.
So I am a hard pickle stan. I will fight for your right to have a pickle candle. If that's what you really want.
I'm more open to that.
I got you.
But again, you know, and I don't mean to discount novelty fragrances. I know there is a market for it. Dill pickle again.
Telling you.
So clearly there's a market for it. And you know, I'm probably injecting too much of my personal opinion into this rant. but it is, we do have to, you know, we are limited in the amount that we can launch. So if we want to cover all bases, it gets to be a little limiting to focus on the novelty things. But hey, if you keep yelling for it, we might do it eventually, you know. So just keep pestering us.
Yes. And we do mean that in all seriousness.
Yeah.
We do want to know what you are looking for. There are kind of a myriad of ways to reach out and let us know. That we do have an amazing support team. You can always DM us, leave comments on videos like this.
Mm-hmm.
We do actually pass on this information to Kevin and our product development team. We want to know what we can be doing more for y'all. So please never feel bad about that. Even if you think it's ridiculous, chances are I will love getting that message. So please.
And this information does get retained and grouped together. You know, if we can go into our system and tell you how many people have requested bacon. So if you keep requesting it, those numbers are going to grow and we're going to notice. So yeah, please reach out. And also, if you're local to the area, come check out our showroom in Durham, North Carolina. I'm often in there chatting with customers. So if you have the ability, if you're one of the lucky people that is close enough to come see us in person, please do.
Yeah. And things like this are definitely things that we are working towards with the elements specifically.
Absolutely. And this is a good example. I would start with matcha bergamot. Excellent fragrance on its own, but I really like you know, strawberry as well. So that could go well. Yeah.
So right now we don't have a great option for kind of distributing this. It does come with the Blending Elements kit. We do have graphics on the website. You can go to something like Fragrance Blending 101 and see a lot of the graphics that we have used.
Yeah.
We are working on getting some more social assets out there for you, so keep an eye on
printable
YouTube.
Version, perhaps.
Yeah, some kind of downloadable.
Oh, okay.
So I do think that the wheel is downloadable as a PDF. I think it's under the Fragrance Blending 101 article.
Yeah, so that is a printable PDF, so you can have the fragrance wheel there for your reference.
Yeah. Perfect. So, on that note, I hope y'all enjoyed kind of our Fragrance Blending 101. We are more than happy to do a 102. I say like I did anything. I'm happy to blot some stuff.
You're always an important element.
So keep a few things to take away. Definitely utilize those tools and resources on the website to get a good starting point, because we know that fragrance blending can be intimidating.
Yeah.
We are always here to answer any questions you have. I can pass things on to Kevin, no problem if I don't know. And we are very much interested in kind of giving you more information. So let us know what you would like for Blending 102.
Yeah, please.
How into the weeds you want to get.
Yeah, if this are specific concepts you want to dive into, you know, if you want to talk more regulatory, we can do that. I'm one of the few people that actually gets kind of excited about it. So that's a possibility. But yeah, if you want to just do more blends together, I was open to the idea of just sort of an open Q&A. So whatever you think is best, shoot it our way. They'll forward it on to me, and we'll see what we can do. I'm happy to be here and talk about these things. So again, thank you all for joining us. For anybody that's still with us, we went over by like 15 minutes. So if you're still here, still listening, thank you so much for coming. And this has been a lot of fun. I hope to do another one soon.
And we will have another one soon, because we will have some blending elements coming out in a little bit.
We do, including honey. And I don't know if you heard or not, but it's freaking awesome.
It's so good. It's the best.
So
it's the
good.
best one that we have. It's the best blending element that we have.
I would agree, and I like a lot of them. And honestly, gourmands typically aren't my favorites, but that honey is just it's just so good.
Yep.
So good. So let us. We're excited for that. There will be more along with the honey. I can't disclose what they are yet, but keep an eye out. We'll have some more blending elements launched soon. We'll come back on here and we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, let us know what you want to talk about. Like, subscribe. Please come back and join us again next time.
Yeah. We'll see ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.